Yeah, I plenty of knockbacks really. I guess early on, the first real crisis was I struggled with instrument flying. That was hard work to me because I hadn't done much of it, and all of a sudden you're doing lots of instrument flying, and you start needing extra trips, and you think, oh god, this slippery slope and catastrophizing, and then you just got to kind of shake yourself down and think, no, I'm gonna get through this. And then navigating, I couldn't navigate out of a paper bag. I was just hopeless. The guy I flew with that I failed my nav test with cataclysmically badly, pitched up on the Phantom, or when I came to the Phantom squadron, he was on the squadron, and he was amazing. And I said to him, the way you dealt with that idiot pilot who couldn't find any turning point was amazing. And the way he handled that, I thought, God, I'm going to handle stuff like that. And then you can start to doubt yourself, and you think, do you know what? Maybe I'm not meant to be here. Maybe I'm not meant to be here. But you kind of dig deep and you think, no, I'll show them. I will, and had another go, and I wasn't great. And that's why I flew Phantoms and not Jaguars or something that involved maps and navigation. But yeah, I just think you dig deep and you take everything as it comes. Don't try and build things up in your own head, because in your own head, they're always worse than they actually are when it happens.
Al, welcome to Inspirability. It's a real pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Well, it's an absolute pleasure to be here, and I'm really, really pleased to be invited along. Such a great thing to do.
Well, we're really excited to hear your very interesting story. So at the moment, you're currently a training captain on the 777.
Yeah.
Before that, you were the former director of flight operations at British Airways.
Yeah.
And alongside or throughout your time at British Airways, you've held various senior management and training roles, which we're really interested to hear your story about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before that, though, you were a pilot in the Royal Air Force on Phantoms and Hawks as well.
Yeah.
And you're currently a trustee at Aerobility.
Yeah, yeah. Since, I can't think, about 11 years now, 10, 11 years. So, yeah.
So lots of exciting stuff to talk about.
I hope so.
Great. So let's get started then. So first of all, we'll go back to the very beginning, and maybe you could tell me a little bit about Al growing up.
Oh, right. Okay. Al growing up. Well, nothing too exciting, I'm afraid, Al growing up, really. So normal sort of upbringing, sort of growing up in a semi-detached house in a housing estate over in Kent, not far from here, Tunbridge, for people that know that. And yeah, the usual thing. So early years are just normal being a kid, really. And we were actually, interestingly, right on the glide path for Gatwick. So in our back garden, if you join our back garden to the threshold at Gatwick and then extend it down 2.6, it's pretty much our gardens on it. So as a kid, I was kind of, aeroplanes were coming over the top all the time. So, but kind of peripheral. And then just to say the usual things growing up, and then went flying and got the flying bug. And then kind of never looked back from there, really. So my childhood was probably, like I say, quite dull, really. There was a golf course around the corner, so I used to play golf all the time. That was my one hobby. And the other thing, as I say, was as soon as I'd gone flying for the first time, I was like, I'm going to be up there. All these airplanes that have gone past all these years, it was like, no, I'm going to be a pilot. So that was it, really.
What about school in terms of your subjects? Was there anything that you really liked? Or
I liked all of school. I'll be brutally honest. I loved school, and maybe I'm a weird kid, but I absolutely adored school, and all the way through, really, really enjoyed it. I liked science subjects, but I liked art, I liked sport. I liked it all, really. And I guess once I decided I was going to be a pilot, I had more of an incentive to love school because I needed to do well. So. I really, really enjoyed it, all subjects. So, and the big thing in hindsight, looking back, is I should have really just done subjects that I really enjoyed as opposed to subjects I thought I should do to become a pilot. But, hindsight's a magical tool, isn't it? But no, I really enjoyed it.
Would you give that advice to anybody now, to rather than think, I want to be this when I grow up?
Yeah.
To think, this is something I really like doing right now. I like these subjects.
Yeah.
And to do those.
I think you've got to have an idea. Like, I wanted to be a pilot, so I knew I needed certain subjects. But, to be honest, my mistake was at A level. I thought, I've got to go and do maths, I've got to do physics, and I enjoyed those subjects, but I enjoyed other subjects a lot more. And as you know, if you enjoy something, you do better at it. So in hindsight, I wish I hadn't done maths and physics. I wish I'd done something else that I enjoyed, because actually I didn't need them specifically, because I had the GCSE. So I think in everything in life, you've got to enjoy it. It's not a practice session, is it? So whatever you're doing, you've got to enjoy what you're doing, and then you will do better at it.
And so what subjects would you have chosen then instead of maths and physics?
Oh, crikey, that. You knew you could ask me that. Biology, I love biology. In fact, other science, so I love biology, I love chemistry. So yeah, probably them, i.e. not so sciencey, maths related and based. So yeah, I think should have done that really.
And so you're talking about being surrounded by aeroplanes because they're flying over your house all the time. But was there a eureka moment that made you think, this is why I want to become a pilot?
Yeah, like there is for most pilots, isn't there? You get that, or got been bitten by the bug, and that's it. It's incurable. So yeah, we had no family background with flying at all. You know, the closest we got to these things flying us over our head. And then my aunt, bless her, she said, "I'm going to take you on holiday. My cousins, my sister, and myself, and we're going to go to Munich, off to Austria." So this was like, wow. You know, we only done like holidays to Butlins before. You know, this was an adventure. Never been on an aeroplane. So off we went to Luton Airport of all places, and we flew in a Monarch Airlines, blessed Monarch Airlines, 720, which for those who don't know is I'm showing my age now, it's a very old 707. It's a short haul 707. And it was from Luton Airport, which at the time was like a porter cabin. And I remember pitching up there, and I was 12, I think. And I'm looking out, there's this 720 in front of us, and to me it's just could be like the space shuttle. It's like, wow. And we got on this thing, and I'll be fair to it, it was reaching the end of its life, being very fair to it. So I remember to this day, sat on the seat, I can still feel the metal bar from the seat where the cushion was worn out, and I'm thinking, this is awesome, this is just awesome. And this thing blasted off, and off we went, and there I am looking out the window at the world beneath from 30,000 feet, thinking this is a new dimension to my life. And the holiday was great, but the flight was the thing for me, and that was it. That was the flying bug. You know, it gets you. Never looked back from there. And from that moment on, I was going to be a pilot. I mean, it was just awesome. I remember it to this day, and I thank my aunt, bless her, to this day for doing that for us.
And how did your parents respond then when you said, I'm going to be a pilot? Because if they didn't know other pilots, I think sometimes it can seem like a job or a career that can be quite unattainable if you don't know anybody who is a pilot or how to become a pilot. So how did they respond when you said that's what you wanted to do?
I mean, my parents were great in terms of supporting us. They really were. You know, if I'd have come back and said, I'm going to be an astronaut, they'd have probably said, yeah, go for it. So they were really supportive in that sense. And they were really supportive in the sense of, you know, if I wanted to do things, like I said, you know, I need to go and join the Air Cadets or something to try and get some aviation background. They say, yeah, we'll run you to Air Cadets and back again. And they're supportive in that way. So I think I could have said any ridiculous job, and they'd have gone, yeah, great, yeah, you go for it. So which is wonderful.
So what was the journey then to becoming a pilot from that 12-year-old boy on the Monarch Airlines?
Well, I'd say it was quite a tricky journey, really, because, you know, any pilot, you know, that when you're aspiring to be one, particularly if you're at school, you know, I always say to people I meet from school or whatever, or people I'm mentoring, is just be determined, because, you know, it's like you say to their careers advice, I want to be a pilot, and they kind of roll around laughing on the floor and say, no, what do you really want to do? And I'm like, well, I want to be a pilot. And the more that happened, the more determined I was going to be a pilot. So, like I say, from absolute scratch, you know, thank you, Air Cadets. Absolutely awesome. That was my only way of getting near any form of aviation. So off to the Air Cadets, which was great. And I got some gliding, and then going to Chipmunk. And it was, to me, it was awesome. And I was never going to do that without the Air Cadets. So it was great. And then I knuckled down. It was like, right, I've got to be the best I can be at school. Because, you know, why are they going to pick me? No. So I've got to try and get the best exam results I can, just so I can stand out from the crowd, because why else am I standing out from the crowd? So so that was it, really. That's how I started to get into aviation. I was very lucky. And I've been very lucky my whole aviation journey, really. And there's so much luck involved in that. 17, I applied for a flying scholarship with the Air Cadets. Bless them, they gave me 30 hours flying back then. 30 hours.
Fantastic.
Unbelievable, isn't it? It won't happen now. But I mean, it's any scholarships are fabulous things, aren't they? Just to help you get on your way. So 30 hours. So end of the sixth form, my summer holiday, I went off to Manston to go and get my, eventually my PPL, because I needed another 8 hours, which I'd saved up for a car, would you believe, and I spent that on getting a PPL. So I went back to school after six, kind of lower six, upper six. And I got my pilot's license. I have a driving license because I did that in the middle of it, but I got my pilot's license, which I thought was quite cool, really. So yeah, amazing, really, but from nothing. So thank you, Air Cadets. Thank you, Air Force.
Well, that's incredible. You're right. I think that it's being surrounded by it, isn't it? Having those opportunities. So what would you say to youngsters now who want to become a pilot, but don't have a family background or know anyone, what advice could you give them perhaps to how to break into that career?
Yeah, I think in a way it's maybe a slightly easier thing now. You still need that determination because there's going to be plenty of people telling you that, what do you really want to do? You don't want to be a pilot. You're not going to be a pilot. So you've got to have that inner determination. But I think that the advent of social media is a fabulous thing. So things like LinkedIn, I think is brilliant, and people can go onto LinkedIn. I get random LinkedIn requests all the time from aspiring pilots, which I'll respond to, which, obviously back then I couldn't just link in with somebody. But so I think use those things and be bold, go and reach out to people, people that you think, oh, well, they're never going to answer me. You'll be surprised, because actually I get as much pleasure from answering and kind of mentoring aspiring pilots as they get from me. So yeah, give it a go. Get out there, work out what airlines are doing, work out who the people are that are worth contacting, and things that I say, keep going on about LinkedIn, but I think it's great. I think it's a wonderful platform, and that helps people from any background, anywhere. It doesn't matter whether you don't know anything about aviation. You can get on there and you can link in with people, and all of a sudden you can get free advice, and you're off and running. But just the main thing that's the same as I needed was just determination. You've got to be determined. I always talk about a big bucket of determination because you're going to need it.
And how can you build your bucket of determination? How can you add to it, do you think?
I think, well, the actual determination bit, is within you. You just got to be as determined as you possibly can. The thing about, I think the bucket is just remembering it, and because you're going to get so many knockbacks, you really are, and that's all the way through your career, flying career, and that's from desperately trying to get into the industry to actually being in it. As you're going to get knockbacks all the time. And that's when you think you've got to dust yourself off and go, actually, that's when I'm going to dip into that bucket of determination, because the easy thing maybe is to go, do you know what, maybe it isn't for me. Maybe I'm not going to be a pilot. And there's plenty of times I probably could have gone, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm fishing in the wrong pond here. But if you delve into that bucket of determination, it kind of worked for me. So yeah, I think that's what you need.
So that sort of brings us on to resilience, really, which is what you're already, I think, talking about already from an early stage. So tell me about your career into aviation then. Did you have any knockbacks along the way?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, well we all do, don't we? That said, I was very lucky because I say, straight to a PPL at 17 from nothing really. And then I wanted to be an airline pilot. I wrote to all the airlines, mid-80s, would you believe? It was that long ago. Wrote to all the airlines and none of them were recruiting. They all said, get 2,500 hours on an ATPL and we might think about talking to you. And I'm like, PPL? And I thought I was great. I got a PPL, but it's like, suddenly you're knocked back again. But it's kind of, you've got to be determined from that moment. So I thought, well, okay, I'm not going to be an airline pilot yet because there's no airline jobs, but the Air Force, they've been very kind and given me this scholarship. So I'll apply to the Air Force. Went off to there, and bizarrely, the Air Force must have needed a lot of pilots back then, because they wrote to me and said, yeah, you've got a job as a pilot. And I was still doing my lower six just after I'd finished my flying scholarship. So that was kind of bizarre to me. All of a sudden I was going to be a pilot, a bit of paper saying I was going to be a pilot, which of course, as you look back now, you think it means absolutely nothing. So another life lesson for me was, don't think you've got it sorted. So my upper 6 A levels were probably not what they could have been. Let's put it that way. Probably should have done a bit more studying just in case it didn't work out. But of course, at the time, you don't think that, do you? So so that was it. I was off to the Air Force, and then joined the Air Force. And I was in the kind of intake in September time, which is all the Oxford and Cambridge graduates come in. And there was, I think, 2 or 3 of us from school. So, and they'd all got like 300 hours on a Bulldog. They'd been in the Air Force system. They were 3-4 years older, which was like, ooh, and I was thinking, all of a sudden you're thinking again, oh, maybe I shouldn't be here, I mean, to be fair, they're all my best mates now, and it's great. But yeah, they kind of had a bit of an advantage, really. They knew the Air Force system, which was new to me. But the advantage I had, of course, was I was a schoolboy, and if someone said run over there and do whatever, I'd just run over there and do it. I'd do whatever I was told. I wasn't used to sort of slobbing around at university or living my own life, really. So so that was it. And then, of course, the Air Force, all through the training, there's just one long series of knockbacks, really, and you need a massive bucket of resilience to get through that. So yeah, amazing.
How do you think people can build up resilience?
I think, well, part of it is kind of internal, and it's your own determination. And I think having a goal really does help, because I think I'm going over there. There's my dot on the wall. That's where I'm going. And actually, do you know what? I'm going to get there. And if you know where you're going and you get knocked along the journey, which you will do, at least you've got that end goal. And if you keep pointing at that end goal, it gives you that determination and that inner sort of strength to go, this is, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And we've all through flying training. God, how many times did I open the curtains at RAF Valley or whatever, and I've got my nav test that day and I'm praying for fog, please, I can't do this. I'm going to get chopped. And you open the curtains and it's like crystal clear blue skies. And oh no, we're going to have to go and fly. But you just do it, don't you? You because the end goal's there and that's where you want to get. And you just also, I think, take every day as it comes. You get through every day and whatever you think, oh God, it's my nav test tomorrow. Funny old thing, you'll get through it. And then the next thing will appear that you've got to get through. So that probably doesn't answer your question at all. But yeah, I think having a goal and determination really helps resilience. And
in terms of failure, so tell me about any knockbacks or any failures that you had through that and how you overcame them.
I plenty of knockbacks really. I guess early on, the first real crisis was I struggled with instrument flying. That was hard work to me because I hadn't done much of it, and all of a sudden you're doing lots of instrument flying, and you start needing extra trips, and you think, oh God, this slippery slope and catastrophizing, and then you just got to kind of shake yourself down and think, no, I'm gonna get through this. And then navigating, I couldn't navigate out of a paper bag. I was just hopeless. I failed my nav test. Not just failed it, I cataclysmically failed it. I was just so awful. And then you can start to doubt yourself and you think, do you know what? Maybe I'm not meant to be here. Maybe I'm not meant to be here. But you kind of dig deep and you think, no, I'll show them. I will, and had another go and I wasn't great. And that's why I flew Phantoms and not Jaguars or something involved maps and navigation. But I just think you dig deep and you take everything as it comes. Don't try and build things up in your own head, because in your own head they're always worse than they actually are when it happens. So and that's kind of worked for me. So there's been plenty of failures along the way. I could mention BA, return of post, custard pieing my application and saying no, we don't want you. But you just kind of have another go, don't you?
And in terms of overcoming failure, how would you advise someone to overcome failure like you did? You sort of think, oh, really, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe a bit of imposter syndrome's creeping in.
Yeah, imposter syndrome's still here, obviously, with all of us. But I think you just, everything, every day, everything you do is a lesson, isn't it? And to be honest, you learn far more from your failures than you do from things that go really well. So I've learned quite a bit. I think that's the thing is look back on it. I'm a big reflector as well. Whenever I've done something, I think, well, what could I have done differently there? What could I have learned from there? Because generally when things haven't gone well, sometimes it's down to the fact I haven't prepared properly or whatever. So you can always learn from those failures and use that to give you determination to do better next time.
What's either maybe the biggest failure you've had to overcome or the failure that you've learned the most from?
Yeah, well, I'd say that was one of the really early ones. Just trying to get into BA, would you believe? I don't want to sound like I'm arrogant, but I had 10 years fast jet flying. I was a 757 captain with a well-known UK airline, and I applied to BA fairly quickly. I thought I'd get my application off. And literally, I didn't get an interview. I got nothing. I didn't get to an assessment day. I got nothing. Return of post. It was like, nah, you don't.
Did you get any feedback as to?
No, they didn't used to give feedback. What I'd worked out was, used to do these essays, and you had to give, and in the little microprint at the bottom, it said, explain what, how, when, but of course, stupid Al didn't read the microprint, so I just wrote off these essays. Of course they want me, and of course no, they didn't want me because I hadn't filled in the what, how, and of course they screen, don't they? And they screen me out straight away. So real knockback actually. I'm thinking, oh. Once you get over the crikey, they must be daft. I was younger then. You think, well, what can I learn from it? And so what I did was I went and found a load of mates that had got through and got selected and got their advice on how they'd written essays and how they'd done it, and took that advice. And BA opened it up again quite quickly, actually. They were taking on a lot of pilots. Again, right place, the right time, very lucky. And I rewrote all my essay things and sent it in. And funny old thing, got to selection day and went straight through the system. So actually, some of the others had been in the whole pool, so I didn't miss out too much. But that's a life lesson. Don't be cocky, don't be overconfident. Just do your best with everything. And I hadn't done my best with this application. And looking back on it, BA were quite right to say that, if I'd read that application, I'd go, really? So, yeah.
I think it's quite, it's easy to rest on your laurels, like you're saying in that situation, and actually it's quite it brings you down to earth with a bit of a bump, bit of a knock.
Yeah.
But you're a better applicant for it, and you learn a lot from it.
Yeah, you're a better person for it. So, and definitely a better applicant, like you say. So, yeah, and those things in life are quite good, particularly in aviation. It's an industry that if you get overconfident in aviation, it's going to come and bite you. And it's just how badly it bites you, really. So it's really good to get those knockbacks that they just put you back in your box, don't they? And you learn from it, and then you move on, a better person.
So after your time in the Air Force then, moved on to British Airways. Tell me a bit about your career at British Airways.
Yeah, so I went via another airline. So I did 10 years military. I did a couple of tours, fast jet tours, but I still had this seed inside me. I want to be an airline pilot. In fact, bizarrely, without boring you, when I joined the Air Force, I still wanted to be an airline pilot. I'd be like, I want to fly VC-10s and TriStars. No, you don't. No, you want to fly fast jets. And as it turned out, they were right. But I still had this nibbling thing. I wanted to be an airline pilot. And I thought, if I'm going to do that, I'll do it sooner rather than later. So 1995, I left the Air Force off the Hawk, and I joined a UK charter airline. I was there for about 2.5 years. Again, right place, right time. Loads of people left. I shot up the seniority list. They kind of run out of people to promote, and they were like, we better have a go there now. So I became a captain on the 75. And then British Airways opened up, and it was like, do you know what? I really want to be in BA, in British Airways. So applied, so didn't happen first time, got in second time. And then I went, and I was straight onto the 747-400, the jumbo. So it was great. How lucky is that? They're recruiting, not only they're recruiting, but because I'd flown the 757, I got straight on the jumbo. It's like, yeah, I mean, how lucky have I been? It's unbelievable. So I went and started doing that because I had a training background from Hawk flying. I applied for training early on, about 18 months into BA, I applied for training because blessed BA, they had training co-pilots. So you could be a type rating examiner and instructor as a co-pilot, which is great. And I know other airlines do that as well now. But it was quite unusual back then. So I applied, put in the comedy application, but actually I put a lot of work into it, put this application in thinking, a lot of people said, oh, you never get it first time, they'll feed you out, but you've made an application so they know your name. And bizarrely they came back and said, yeah. So off I went. I was 2-ringer, brand new FO on the jumbo, training and examining, guys that had been in the company 30, 40 years. It was unbelievable. And again, just pure luck, right place, right time. But, with these things, when they come along, you got to grab them, haven't you? You really have, which I did. So, and learned so much from that and really, really enjoyed it. So, which is great. What
do you think makes a good trainer in terms of teaching, whether it's aviation or in any other industry?
It's really, I think empathy is a massive thing. I'm a real believer that actually, if you've got a trainee, you need to put yourself in their shoes. And, as pilots, we all know how we feel being tested. I haven't found a pilot yet who says he enjoys being tested, well, not one that's telling the truth anyway. So, and I don't enjoy being checked or tested as much as anyone else. So I think you've got to put yourself in the shoes of the trainee and think, how would I feel if I was over there? So I need to kind of do my best to relax them and get the most out of it. So, that's a good starting point. I think you've got to know your stuff. I think it's really important if you're training that you know what you need to know. So you give added value. So they're probably the main two things. But yeah, the empathy thing is massive.
Do you find that you adapt your style as well, according to who you're with? I'm thinking about also leadership as well, that you adapt your style perhaps to a different team.
I think you have to be, again, aware of the people you're with and again, putting yourself in their shoes. So, and we're all different. That's the joy of human beings, isn't it? Everyone's different. So, I think it's quite right to sort of adapt your own style, but you still got to be yourself because we're all ourselves, aren't we? And you can't not to be yourself. So it's important to be true to yourself. But yeah, you can kind of morph, and you've got someone that's really, really nervous. You're going to treat them differently to someone who's maybe really, really overconfident, aren't you? So, I think you bear that in mind. But the bottom line is maybe the guy, you've got to think as well, the guy that's hugely overconfident, maybe he's not, maybe he's massively underconfident, and that's how he shows and gets over it. So you kind of got to think about that, haven't you?
Were there ever any kind of mentors or trainers that you had and you thought, that's great, I'm going to learn a lot from them and I want to emulate that style?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Because like I say, I was 2 rings, which was a big deal on the jumbo back then. And I was with guys that were jumbo training captains of 35 years in the company. You know, these people had flown the jumbo for decades. They knew everything about it, but they were the best mentors. You could sit and look at them and work out not only knowledge and what they'd done, but you know, just the way they ran the sim, and they were so helpful and so supportive. And again, just be a sponge, you know, through life, be a sponge, take on everything you can, because, you know, some stuff is really great. Some stuff you think, oh, that's not so great, but just take it all in. Yeah, so really, really lucky in that sense.
What about mentors outside of flying as well? Have you had any sort of role models or anyone that's really inspired you?
At school, bizarrely, was my best role models. My biology teacher, which is why I should have done biology. Yeah, I knew there was a reason for it. Who was fabulous. I mean, he was just amazing. Always encouraging. You know, he was one of those that when I said I'm going to be a pilot, he was like, "Yeah, you are." And actually, he came flying with me in a Cessna.
Did he?
If he only knew what it was like being a 17-year-old kid flying a Cessna with no idea what I was doing. But he came along, yeah, he hired the aeroplane for an hour and off we went. Bless him. So that's how much faith he had in me. And I thought, God, that's amazing. And he just was just a great mentor without kind of, you know, probably knowing he was just brilliant. So, and that kind of gave me determination and belief, and went from there. And then various people through the Air Force career and things, you know, the guy I flew with I failed my nav test with cataclysmically badly, pitched up on the Phantom, or when I came to the Phantom squadron, he was on the squadron, and he was amazing. And I said to him, you know, the way you dealt with that idiot pilot who couldn't find any turning point was amazing. And the way he handled that, I thought, God, I'm going to handle stuff like that.
How did he handle it?
He was just so supportive. And I mean, literally, I flew, without boring you about the detail of my disaster, and we flew to St. Athens. This is in a jet Provost, again, another museum piece, sorry about that. We flew in a jet Provost T Mark 5, and we had high level and down to low level through Wales to get to St. Athens. And I literally, down in starting a NavX, if you've ever done one from high level down in, couldn't find the entry point. Well, okay, it's not a great start, but you know, heading in time and all that business. And I literally went around this whole route, heading in time, didn't see a single thing. I mean, to me, you know, a puddle was a lake. That was good enough for me, you know, navigation wise. And we get to St. Athens, and he was great. He said, look, Al, don't worry about it. I mean, what he should have been saying was that was an absolute disaster, Al, but he said, don't worry about it. He said, if you can navigate your way home, we'll be absolutely fine. I thought, what a star. So it kind of relaxed me, and off we went again. And I had this funnel feature. I remember probably the M4 and the M something else, 6 maybe. So whatever, if I go in this funnel feature, and then I can't, even Al can't go wrong. Even I can't miss a motorway. And true enough, I found the motorway, blew up this funnel feature, and then headed off in completely the wrong direction. The compass, bizarrely, in a nav test is quite an important bit of kit. Completely ignored that and shot off down the wrong motorway. And it's like, and this guy, he didn't flinch. And he obviously gave me a time to sort of, Al will notice, you know, the sun's over there, not over there sort of thing. Al didn't notice, and eventually he took control, and we went off back to Cranwell, and we landed with, you know, not a lot of fuel, because bless him, he'd given me the absolute best chance he ever could to pass that test. And when it didn't work out, he was great with it. Again, he said, you know, if you want some advice before you go again, you know, you will do it, which was amazing, absolutely amazing.